what you could do is, on Quizlet, you have all those like emergency button phrases. They're also like in the book just before the first chapter, but just like to have those crutch phrases or whatever, but just to be able to say, like, could you say that again? What does that mean? How do you say that in Swedish? How do you say that in English? Like, because you could like, even if you don't understand what he or she's saying, you could just be like constantly bombarding this poor person with questions and keep up quite a lot of conversation. Exactly, the panic button phrases. If there was something that you wanted to, like, it would be kind of cool to say a few things, then focus on the panic button phrases, and also like from chapter 1, just like how to ask a few questions, because that is one thing that I said this to one of my my private students this week, who's a nervous speaker, and I said, look, we can just focus on questions, because questions are so great for many different reasons. If you're like she is, a nervous speaker, when you're asking a question, you're putting the spotlight back to that person and they get to talk, right? So you're like out of the spotlight, which is nice. I mean, you'll find things out, and if you don't understand what they're saying, you can go on a panic button phrase, and you can even just ask, but in Swedish, like, hur säger man det på engelska? You can just ask that person, how do you say that in English? And then they can give you the English word, and then you've saved yourself from Googling. Do you know what I mean? You can use that person as a dictionary, right? And thirdly, it's just as generally people like to talk about themselves and they like to be asked questions. So like, it's questions are really good. So if you wanted to prep just a little bit, just go for panic button phrases and a few questions, and then you can just like play with them a bit and you do something. It's like when you're kind of early stage, or like at this stage, you're not going to be, okay, my friend's coming in a month's time, how am I going to learn, like, I don't know, 2,000 nouns, 300 verbs, like that's just not going to happen. But you can still have a little bit of a conversation, and especially with the panic button phrases, because the panic button phrases are the way to think about them is like, the thing that people panic about when they listen is you sort of freeze and you're like, whoa, you lose track and you're like, I don't know this, and then you switch to English because you're panicking. So, and because obviously when you speak it's real time. But the panic button phrases is like having a stop, rewind, pause, rewind, because you can then ask people like, sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you say that again? Sorry, I didn't get that. What does that mean? Could you say that in English or whatever? But you can still do those things, like 5 or 6 phrases in Swedish. You can tread water a bit.